Hello, everyone. How are you? Thank you for joining us today. For this session, we are very exciting. This is part of our regional webinar that we do for North America, Central America, and the Caribbean. We have these webinars every Wednesday. And today, we're going to talk about platforms where you can do your applications. Please take note that your microphone and your camera is off. If you have any questions, feel free to share them through the chat. We will be happy if we have time to answer all your questions. We will also provide the information about your advising center, so you can also contact your advising center if you have questions that we don't have time to answer today. So before we start, I would like to introduce to the Education USA centers and advising centers that we offer. Maybe many of you are already familiar with Education USA, but for those who don't know Education USA, I would like to share with you that we are a global network of advising centers. We work with the US State Department, the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs. There are more than 430 advising centers around the world. We are located in 175 countries and territories. We offer accurate, comprehensive, and current information about the full range of accredited U.S. higher education institutions. We offer free access to introductory information on U.S. studies. We work with these 5 steps to U.S. studies. So advisors in the advising centers will provide you information and advising on researching your options, financing your studies, completing your application, and once you are accepted to a U.S. institution, we also will provide services of advising for applying to your visa and preparing for your departure. I will share with you some of the frequently asked questions that we get. And one is that if we have scholarships. We are not a program that offers scholarships, but part of our services is to provide financial information. We will help you to find financial aid and scholarships. There is also one scholarship that offers Education USA in some countries that is called the Opportunity Funds Program, and that helps with the admission process to US institutions. Another frequent questions that we get is, are there opportunities to improve my English? We are not an English school. We do not offer English courses, but we also can help you find opportunities to improve your English. And also we can help you to find institutions in the United States with these English courses are offered. Other questions is, can you help me find short-term study abroad programs or an internship abroad? Our services are focused on higher education institutions, universities, and colleges. So we can help you find these options at these type of institutions. And another frequent questions that we get is if we have partnerships or agreement with the specific US colleges and universities. And the short answer is no. We work with all the universities that are accredited in the United States. That's mostly 4,000 universities in the United States. So I'm going to introduce you to our very special guest today. Today, we are going to have representation from the Coalition for College and Common App platforms. We will be sharing with you about these platforms so you can apply for admission to US institutions for your undergraduate degree. And we'll start with Amanda. Amanda is representing the Coalition for College. Amanda White, I don't know if I said your last name well, Amanda. If not, you will correct us. She's the Director of Communication for College and has worked closely on the Coalition's new partnership with Square this year. Prior to joining the Coalition in 2020, Amanda worked at the University of Vermont, serving most recently as Director of Creative Communications. She lives in Burlington, Vermont. And Amanda, welcome. Thank you for being here today with us. And we'll give time for Amanda to present, and then we will have another guest. So Amanda, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen as well. Let me get that set up. Okay, so thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here with all of you this evening and telling you a little bit more about the Coalition for College and especially about our new application platform that we just launched. And I'm happy to take questions. I should have a presentation and then we should have time for some questions afterwards. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat and I'll try to come back to those at the end. So before we talk about the application platform itself, I want to share first some information about the Coalition for College and the work that we do. So the Coalition is more than 150 colleges and universities in the US that share a proven commitment to access, affordability, and student success. And what do we mean by that? So Coalition schools have a commitment to graduating students on time and with low or no debt, and they have to meet our eligibility requirements related to those factors. And so because of that shared commitment, we really consider these smart college choices and are happy to represent these member schools and work with them on different ways of supporting students through the college application process. And so our member schools really represent a diversity in terms of the size of the student body, from fewer than 400 undergraduates to more than 60,000. And they also represent a range of levels of selectivity. Some of the most selective schools are part of our membership. And then we also have schools that accept more than 90% of the students who apply. And across these diverse factors, though, still collectively coalition schools outperform national averages in the US by about 15% when it comes to graduation rates. And that's a really important factor to consider when you're thinking about the overall likely cost of your college education, because each year that you take to complete your degree means more money. So that graduation rate is something that we really look at when we think about affordability and which schools should be really at the top of your list when you're making that college list. So when you're working on your college list, we really think by starting with the now 175 coalition schools, you're starting on solid footing. So I'm certainly here today to talk to you about our application platform, but we definitely want you to know that we are more than an application as well. And what I mean by that is we provide a number of resources and different kinds of resources to help students understand the college admissions process and also answer questions as they come up along the way. So we invite our member schools, the admissions counselors at our member schools, to join us in events frequently. We have a couple a month, typically throughout the year. And now we have a growing library of these panel discussion recordings on our site that are there for you to explore. And I'm going to, in a moment, drop a few links to all of these resources that you can return to later on. But these topics range from any kinds of questions that are likely to come up for students during the application process. So things around financial aid, understanding your financial aid offer, how to start your college search. For transfer students, understanding the transfer admissions process. We also will frequently host Ask Us Anything events. So these are really a chance for you to ask admissions counselors directly any questions that are on your mind. I think what's been great for me as I've been doing this work is to really get to know a lot of admissions counselors around the country and better understand the reason why they're doing this work, which is really to help students get to college, get through college, and pulling them together in these events has been great to see them hands-on with students and answering lots of questions. And we hear that back from students. So this is one of my favorite quotes that a student shared after attending one of our events. Seeing actual advisors show me that the college admissions process was not headed by a heartless robot. So these are the folks who will be reading your applications, and we're bringing them together to make sure that they're giving you advice directly. And that's work that we're really excited to do at the Coalition. And beyond those events, because we know that, hour-long panel discussions are an investment in time, we want to try to make sure that we are serving up this content in more digestible formats that are easy for you to bring into any social media feeds that you happen to be following. So you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, etc. And we are regularly sharing videos and other advice directly from admissions experts to you. We also, on our website, coalitionforcollege.org, have a variety of articles that can help you understand the process. We know that the application process, especially in the US, can be confusing, and we want to make sure that there is good information from our member schools to help you understand what the parts of the college application are, glossary terms around financial aid, advice on how to start your college essay, how to revise your essay. Lots of different topics here, so great articles to explore on our site. And something that we worked on during the pandemic, and that I think is a really great lasting resource, are a series of virtual tours of Coalition schools that focus on the themes that unite our schools: access, affordability, and student success. So while this was certainly critical during the pandemic, we know that travel to campuses and visiting campuses is often very expensive and out of reach for a lot of students. So we want to make sure that everyone has access to great information about our campuses, can tour them virtually, and that we are foregrounding the kinds of information that we know lots of students really need when they're thinking about college, related to cost, related to the investments that colleges are making in their students and helping them be successful, graduate, and come out on the other side with a great start in their careers. And like I said, I will drop some links in the chat right now that can help you connect to lots of these resources that I just mentioned. So again, these are just some of the things that we're doing at the Coalition for College that go beyond our application platform, but are designed to help you understand the college admissions process and put you directly in touch with the experts, the folks who are reading your applications. And now let's talk a little bit about our new application platform. So Coalition member schools have the opportunity to share an application that you can use to apply to our schools. We just launched this month, so we've been live for about 30 days now, and I'm excited to show you now what this looks like and how it works. So let's look first at how to get started. So on any page of our website, coalitionforcollege.org, you'll find a link in the upper right-hand corner, the Create a Score button, that will take you to a landing page where you can set up your account if you don't have one yet. And then you can see a screenshot of what that looks like on the lower right. Once you create an account, you'll also find the already have an account, sign in here button. So this is always a way for you to get easily to the application platform. So SCORE, our new partners, have been in business for a few years, and we're really excited to rethink our college application and partner with them because they provide such great resources that help students also explore colleges, discover new schools, think about themselves and what's best for them and what might be a great fit school and also stay organized. So we'd heard lots of great things about the tools that they were building and had an opportunity to work together to say, what if we could take some of the best college tools for exploring colleges and bring the application experience closer to where you start the college journey? And so that's kind of the big picture thinking behind this new application experience on SCORE. And so once you have created your SCORE account, let's take a look at what that dashboard looks like, the main SCORE dashboard. You'll find some suggestions on the main part of the page of the activities that you can work on within SCORE. They have a partnership with an organization called UScience that lets you take career aptitude assessments and think about what careers might be a good fit for you. That's pretty fun to do. Also an activities tracker that you can keep track of the extracurricular engagement that you participate in and then easily generate a resume. So a lot of great tools that can help you along the way. But I want to first look at some of those menu items across the top. So let's look at this Discover menu item here. And this is where you are going to be able to explore schools, including through a personalized college search. So if you click on this Add Preferences button, it'll pull up a list that lets you really customize the attributes of colleges that are important to you. So what matters to you when you're thinking about college? What academic areas do you want to study? What location are you interested in? And this will take those, roughly 4,000 US colleges and really filter that list down into something that will help you understand which schools might be a good fit for you, where you should start looking. And in addition to the personalized search, SCORE also provides a couple of ways for you to explore groups of schools. So one of those is certainly Coalition for College member schools, which we talked about the reasons why those are smart college choices and a great place to start. And then also this Apply with SCORE list. So these are all of the schools that are accepting in this first year our new application process with SCORE. So you can easily identify the schools that you'll be able to apply through by clicking on this list and taking a look through those schools. And if we look at what a college profile page looks like in SCORE, you can see that you've got the name of the institution, some photos. If I were to scroll down this page, you would see a lot more details about the school, its location, admissions requirements, videos if schools choose to provide those. But then you'll also find some buttons here just under the photo that lets you explore similar schools. So Caltech, for example, is accepting our application method, and they're a Coalition for College member school. And if you clicked on either of those buttons, you'd be able to see all of the other schools that share those attributes. So you can see how SCORE lets you find schools that you might be interested in, and then find other schools like it that share any number of attributes. So a great place to just start discovering schools if you haven't made your list yet. And then if we look at the My Colleges page, again, looking at that top navigation, you click on My Colleges and you come to this layout where you see columns of schools showing various statuses for you. So once you decide, yes, I'm interested in this school, you can put it in your following column. You can choose to follow the school on SCORE. What that means is it lets you stay organized and remember the schools that you were interested in to come back to later. For schools that partner with SCORE and want to send you messages through SCORE, they can get a sense of what preferences you have indicated, what you're interested in studying, what extracurriculars you like to do, and send you messages that are tailored to you about their schools. Your information, your personal identifying information is always kept secure through that. So that's just schools sending out messages to students like you, not necessarily knowing who you are yet until you choose to share that information through SCORE and through the application process. And then once you've decided to apply to a school, you can drag it. These are all drag and drop columns. Drag it into your applying column to keep yourself organized. You'll see here that we've indicated that we're applying via SCORE to all of these schools, but you can use this to manage any application method. So if you're applying through an institution's application directly, or even if you're applying through Common App, you can indicate all of that here to keep yourself organized and understand what application method you're using. But once you indicate that you are applying via SCORE, that will interact with the application experience. And before we move on to that, I just want to share one other thing that's great about SCORE, which is that you can invite a parent or guardian or other supporter to connect with you there. So once you do, their account will be linked to yours, and they'll have their own access to college search tools that will let them better understand what options there are and even make suggestions to you. And when they do that, that's what will show up here in this left column, suggested. So you'll be able to see what schools your parent or guardian or other supporter thinks you should explore. And then you can move it along to school that you're following if you agree, or you can move it over to not interested if it doesn't turn out to be a good fit for you. So a great way to get other people in your life involved and understand the college admissions process and explore schools alongside you. And next, I want to talk about the application experience on SCORE. So though, again, that was just a quick look at some of the other activities that you can do to start exploring schools and keep yourself organized throughout the process. But once you're ready to apply, you can start working on your applications via the application profile. And to get to that, you'll always find it right here at the top of the page under Apply with SCORE. When you click on that button, you'll be taken into the application profile where you'll find all of the questions that you'll need to move through in order to progress with your applications to all the schools that you've indicated you're applying to through SCORE. So the personal section is where we'll start. We'll come back to the overview at the end, but first let's just take a quick look at what kinds of questions you're going to find in this shared application profile. So many of these sections is information that all of our schools will consider when they look at your applications. And some of them are optional, or schools will not consider or even receive that information. And we'll keep you informed throughout the journey so that you can understand how to prioritize what to complete. You'll see that in a moment. So first, just looking at the personal section, you're going to enter some basic details about yourself. One of the nice things about SCORE is if you've already entered this information about yourself through registration or elsewhere as you're discovering schools and exploring, that's going to be pulled in here. So many of these details you won't need to re-enter again. You'll find that it's here, but it's always editable. So you can go in and make any updates that you might need to when you're working on the application. So you'll find the personal information, contact, demographic information. There's some questions related to a fee waiver here. And then in the next section is where you'll fill in some details about who lives in your household, the highest level of education earned by any of your parents. This is where you'll find citizenship information, so you can make sure that that's correctly reflected there. We have a question related to disaster impact. So if you'd like to characterize how the COVID pandemic affected you and your learning, or natural disasters, we have a series of checkboxes that make it easy for you to quickly indicate how you were impacted without necessarily having to write an essay or short answer around that. The next section, education, is where you'll really find the bulk of the questions. But here, for example, is where you see under high school coursework that none of the schools that are on my list are actually considering this information. So you can skip this section. So whatever schools you've indicated you'll be applying to will really drive how to prioritize the questions that you need to answer to make sure that you're not doing one more bit of work than you need to get through the application process. And then in this final section over here, essay and more, this is where you'll find the FERPA waiver that you can sign right within SCORE, as well as the coalition essay. So many of our schools will choose to use the coalition essay that will help you write a single essay to share with multiple schools. So this is where you would be able to tell that so Case Western Reserve University and 3 other colleges on my list do require the essay. So I know I should proceed with completing this. And I do want to note that throughout the process and score, if you need help, you're going to find it at your fingertips. So in the bottom right corner of every screen, you'll see this blue circle with the score logo that says help. And once you click on it, this pulls up the resource center, and you're going to find a lot of different ways to get help. So you can find some product guides and videos that will walk you through the experience. You can find the help center where you can search for topics and articles, and you'll also find the contact to actually submit a help ticket and request specific support for you. One of the things that we have always heard about SCORE from counselors and others and students is that their customer support is fantastic. And we've really seen them build a lot of great documentation. So if you don't find it documented already in the Resource Center, definitely don't be shy about submitting that help ticket and asking for assistance, because SCORE will get back to you right away with an answer. So then let's take a look at this overview of the application profile. This is where you're going to see all of the schools on your list that you're applying to via the SCORE platform. And so you're going to be able to see at a glance where you still have work to do. So for example, at Case Western, it looks like I'm missing my English proficiency exams, 12th grade coursework, and one more. And I can click into this if I choose and get that information. So at a glance, I can tell, okay, I've still got work to do on some of these, but it looks like for Bucknell, I'm ready to take the next step. So if I click into Bucknell, I'll be able to take a look at the application summary. So this is where I can confirm how I'm applying. So I'm choosing to apply regular decision with the January 15th deadline. There's this edit button here, so I can update that if that's not correct for any reason. And then there's next the SAT and ACT reporting. And I want to take a moment to talk about this and explain how this will work. So there's a drop-down menu here that lets you make a choice for Bucknell. What's your choice around sending SAT or ACT scores if you have them? So if I look at that drop-down menu, I can choose to share them or I don't want to share them. And I also have a link here to go ahead and review what SAT or ACT scores I've already entered in SCORE. And if I click on that, it'll take me right back to the SAT, ACT subsection under education. And here I can see I've already entered a test date with some scores. I can edit that, I can delete it, I can add other scores if I have them. And then I can also take a look at this helpful tip at the top that says, see how test scores are shared with these schools. And if I click on that, I can see at a glance for the schools on my list, what are their SAT or ACT policies, and understand quickly what my options are. So for Bucknell is test optional for first-year applicants, and they accept self-reported scores through SCORE. So I know I don't need to send scores if I don't want to, but I can choose to. So if I come back to the application profile, I've chosen to include those test scores, and SCORE is letting me know that they'll share the highest of the scores that we shared via SCORE. So the policy is to send your highest test scores. Next, I want to spend some time talking about this box below. What's next? There may be additional questions and essays. So our application with SCORE is really a two-step process. You're going to do a lot of the work, the bulk of the work right within SCORE by filling out all of these questions in the application profile. And then our member schools may have a few additional questions that are just specific to them. And so this is where you're going to be able to get a sneak peek at what those additional questions are for each school. So if I click on that, I can see that Bucknell is letting me know that I may have up to, 21 multiple choice questions, a short answer, but no additional essays. So I can really sense, okay, I'm going to have a little bit more work to do here, and I can plan accordingly. So once I've reviewed all of this and I'm feeling good, I've made my decision for Bucknell about how to share SAT scores, ACT scores. And remember, this is just for Bucknell. So if you want to make a different choice for a different school, you can do that on that application summary. But once I'm good and the continue application button is available, I can click on that. And that brings up this page that has two pieces of important information. So once you've completed all of this information in SCORE, you're going to be leaving the SCORE experience and heading to the college website to finish those questions. Once you do that, the information that you have provided here in SCORE for Bucknell is complete. You won't be editing that again. You won't be brought back to it. So you really want to make sure that the information is accurate, is what you're intending to send, and you're ready to take that step. Before this, schools won't have access to the information that you have here. But this part is really kind of like sending an email. Once you send it, it's sent. So you want to make sure that you review your profile and are ready to move forward on step 2 of the application. And we provide an easy way for you to do that by downloading a copy of your profile. So you'll have a PDF downloaded onto your device that you can take a look at. And this is the same PDF that application readers will likely review at the schools where you're applying. So you can really just see what the admissions counselor will see when they read your application. So we highly recommend that you take a moment, download the copy of that. You can even share it with somebody else, trusted adult in your life, to also take a look through it, do some copy editing. If you find something that is not quite right or anything is amiss, you can say, I'm not ready yet, and go back and easily find which question in the application profile sections that you want to update, and then come back and continue application. And once you are ready, everything looks good to go, you've gathered up your nerves and you're ready to move forward, you can say, yes, I'm sure, let's do it. And at that point, that's when you're going to finish your application on the supplemental form on the college website. So this is step 2 and really the last step of your application process, where you're going to finish those few questions that are specific to the schools where you're applying. So these forms are housed on the school's website. All of the data that you're sending comes over in real time and might even impact what questions the school wants to ask you. So they might have some conditional questions based on who you are and your answers in your profile, but you're going to go ahead and move through this form. If you want to just take a look at it and come back, that's fine. You can save for later. The same is true in SCORE. You can always come back. You don't need to finish anything in one sitting. And when you come back, you're going to come back through SCORE. So you only ever need your SCORE credentials to log in and have access to this. And if you have a payment or have a fee waiver from the school directly, that's where this will happen. You'll make your application fee payment via this form. And once you submit it, you'll come back to the SCORE experience. And this is where one of the really great things that we're excited about our new application process lives. And this is where you're going to track the application status. So you can see now that there are a couple of schools that have been moved to the applied column. And you're going to see updated information around whether your meaning the form was submitted and you're done with the application process. And then some schools may choose to use their system. Some might have a status of awaiting materials that you determine that you need to go back in and submit a few more materials for them. Some may choose to share that a decision is ready. So what we've provided here is a way for colleges to give you an at-a-glance sense of not only what's needed for the application, but then those steps sometimes that follow the application. And one of the things that we've heard from students over time is that that can be a really cumbersome part of the application process. You've managed to apply to several schools, and now you have all of these college portals that you need to track and remember credentials to log into. Well, now you can get to them directly from a single account. So we're really excited that it's not only the application that's streamlined, it's also what comes after the application that will be streamlined for students via this new application with SCORE. So that is a pretty quick overview of what we've built. And I want to just recap with a few of what we consider the highlights of this. So one thing that was really important to us is that we wanted to help you complete more of that journey to college from one account. So by partnering with SCORE, we've brought really fantastic personalized college search tools tools to help you get to know yourself, your goals, keep track of all of your activities, and really just have a single account to do more of your college preparation, and then have that seamlessly blend into the application itself. Like before, and like any consortium app, you can make progress on applications to multiple schools by answering questions once. So that continues to help you save time as you're working on applying to multiple schools. We also let you, as I just said, seamlessly track your application status and jump into those college portals from your SCORE account using only your SCORE credentials. So it's a single sign-on experience where you only need to know your SCORE username and password to be able to check out the college-specific portals where your checklist will be, where you might track what steps are needed for the financial aid process, and other things that come after the application. And finally, because these are all coalition schools that are supporting this new application process, you can also apply with confidence to smart college choices because of that shared commitment to graduating students on time and with low to no debt. So with that, I am happy to take any questions if anyone has any. I will stop sharing.
Thank you, Amanda. That was great. That was an overview of all the platform and how to start researching the institutions, and also how to use the coalition. And we have a few questions here that I would like to share with you. One is about tutorials. Do you have any videos or tutorials explaining, showing how students need to complete these steps in your website?
Yes, so if you create your SCORE account and go to that help button in the bottom right, you'll find lots of guides, including some video walkthroughs. And in a moment, I can drop a link to those as well. SCORE is creating lots of videos to help explain where you need to go and what you need to focus on.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And there is another question about the SAT. The student is asking about if these scores apply to master student as well. I don't know if you want to answer that question. I can also answer that question.
Yes, so our application platform is just for undergraduate students and not graduate students.
Thank you. And the SAT scores are for students that want to do a bachelor's degree. If you are planning to study a master's degree or a doctorate degree, there are other standardized tests like the GRE, the GMAT, and we also have some sessions about this kind of testings. There is another question here. Do you have any waivers is there application, or how the application fee waivers work, if there is any opportunity for that?
Yes, so in the application profile under the personal section, the last subsection is our fee waivers. You'll see there, once you create your account and take a look, that there are a number of statements that you can check a box if any apply to you. Most of our fee waiver requirements are with domestic US students in mind, and our coalition member schools have agreed to honor those primarily based on domestic students. However, a number of our member schools will honor them for international students as well, if that applies to you. So you can always email a school directly and say, will you honor the coalition fee waiver for me? And if that's the case, you can check that box and you will bypass application fee payment. You won't have to pay the application fee or provide any additional verification. So it's a really fast-tracked way of getting a fee waiver, although it is, to be fair, designed with domestic students in mind. That said, many schools do have lots of other fee waiver opportunities, and so you should always reach out to the admissions office at the schools where you're applying, and they may provide you with a special code to have another fee waiver of their own that you would then enter on that supplemental form.
Thank you, Amanda. And another student here is asking about resources or videos, tutorials for writing the essays. Do you have that kind of resources?
Yes. So one of our recent panel discussions was focused on the college essay. So let me grab that link and I will throw that in the chat too. Thank
you. That's great. I have a very specific question. As a Caribbean student, I am starting my CAPE classes from October. What are the requirements as it relates to grades? Are both years of CAPE required, or can I do first year, then apply to college? I am not familiar with Caribbean students, so I don't know if you have the answer for this question. I'm sorry, I don't, but I know that our member schools certainly will. So if there are specific schools that you're hoping to apply to, definitely get in touch with those admissions offices directly. If you go to coalitionforcollege.org and look at our member school list, those are direct links to their admissions websites. So you can really pick any school on that list, go to their admissions site, look for a contact. Sometimes they'll have someone who focuses in international admissions, and just shoot that counselor an email and see what advice they have for you. That's what I would recommend. Thank you, Amanda. I see another question here. Where is it? Oh, yes. One student from Venezuela is asking if there are any citizenship restrictions or if the platform is open to any international student. Yes, so the platform is open to any student. And if you run it, so some backstory, when SCORE launched, they were really for US students, and they've been updating the platform to make sure the international students are served as well now that our application is there. If through the registration process, you come across any dropdowns where you don't see your country represented, you can always send SCORE an email to let them know. It's also important to know that you can edit your information in that application profile. So whatever you need to do to move through the account creation process, if you hit any roadblocks there, create the account, and then when you need to, go into the application profile and make sure that your location is represented correctly there. Great. There is another question about the student that says, if in my country, we only do high schools until 11th grade. Should I still fill out the information as if I finished 12th grade? I don't know what country is that, maybe Costa Rica. I think that's the case of Costa Rica, and I may be wrong. But what about that? If the high school is up to 11th grade, how does work? Yes, I would also recommend filling out the information in the application profile and then get in touch with any schools that you're looking to apply to directly, because sometimes requirements can change from one school to the next. Okay, thank you. I don't see any other questions related to the Coalition for College platform. However, I see that some of you have other questions. And at the end of this session, we will share the contact information. So you can contact me and I will put you in contact with your advising center. We are also going to share how you can find your advising center. There are questions about master degree programs. There are some questions about English programs. So yeah, we'll be happy to answer that questions via email. I think there is one more. I am out of high school for a year now. I don't know. I'm sorry, Kemi, I didn't get your question complete. So you are out of high school for a year now. I guess what happened with students that are taking a gap year? Do you have any recommendations? Yep. So our application process supports both students who are applying for first-year programs as well as transfer students. If you're taking a gap year and you don't have college credits during that time, you're likely going to be applying still as a first-year student. Again, these things can differ from college to college, so it's always great to get in touch with an admissions counselor who can answer your specific questions. But plenty of students do take a gap year, and it's fine to go in and create an account and apply. Just fill out the information that's asked for from you and move forward with that process. Okay, great. I think, Shayla, you have a question, but you need to write it in the chat We are not, we don't have the option for you to open your mic. I think that, yes, go ahead, Amanda.
I have one more question that came to me directly that I think is a good one to ask. So what's the cost for using SCORE? SCORE is completely free for students to use. SCORE provides college guidance management software for school districts, and school districts will pay a fee for that, but students' accounts are free. The application process itself to use SCORE is completely free.
Thank you. I have another question here. Is the platform able, can you upload in the platform a super score? I guess that's referring to the TOEFL and SAT super scores.
Yep. So in a sense, we super score for you. So once you enter your SAT or ACT scores in the system, we're going to just send your highest scores to the schools.
Great. Amanda, I want to thank you for your time. I don't know if you have any final thoughts, any final tips before we continue with the next part of the session today.
Nothing specific, just thanks again for having me and be in touch. I dropped links a while back with lots of different resources you can take a look at, and you can always get in touch with us directly at info@coalitionforcollege.org. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Amanda. And I think Marcy is already here. If you can open your microphone and your camera, Marcy.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Marcy. It's nice to see you.
Sorry, my lighting's a little bit off. I'm not in my home today. I'm actually in the United States, but I'm so thrilled for the chance to connect with you today.
Thank you, Marcy. Thank you very much for being here today. I would like to introduce Marcy before she starts talking about the Common App. Marcy Herr is originally from Pennsylvania and attended Penn State University, where she earned her bachelor's and master's degree in international education policy. Marcy has worked in education in Malaysia, Thailand, and now lives in Mexico City. She works alongside her team to represent NYU Abu Dhabi to students and educators through Latin America and the Caribbean. So Marcy, welcome. I don't know if you are going to share your screen. I think you should be able to do that.
Excellent, thank you. I will do so now. And we'll begin. Thank you so much, Ms. Herrera and everyone from Education USA for coordinating this session. So messing around a little here with my light, but sorry again for the darkness. I am so excited to connect with you all today to talk about something I'm very passionate about. Of course, my job is to represent New York University's campus in Abu Dhabi to students and educators in Latin America and the Caribbean. But within that role, part of my job is to talk about how to apply to US universities. And so that is going to be our focus today. If you do have any questions about NYU, I'm sharing my email address in the chat box, and you can always feel free to reach out to me. But the focus of this session is going to be all about the Common Application and how to use it and why it's such a great and important tool for students like yourselves who are interested in applying to US universities. The Common App website is actually used by around 1,000 different universities as the only way that students can apply to their school. Maybe some of them have other ways as well, but for a lot of them, what you see here on my screen is the one and only way. And so it's important for me that you feel confident in using this tool. What you can see here is just the home screen of the Common App. And before I have even logged into my student account, we can already use this website as such a useful tool for a number of different resources. But there's one that I would like to draw your attention to, and that is the first year applicant guide. So if you need to review everything we've talked about today, when it comes time for you to apply to universities, you can come back to this section of the website, and it's going to show you step by step what you need to do in order to apply, including a number of different frequently asked questions sections, videos, and really detailed instructions. So even within the website, there's support for you. You can, of course, always rely on Education USA or admissions representatives like myself. The other thing I want to show you is that before I've logged in, we can review the essay prompts. Some universities, as you know, I'm sure, will require that you do write a personal statement, or in this case, a common application essay. The 7 questions that we can see here are the essay questions for this upcoming application cycle. But the good news is that if you are a younger student, these questions don't usually change from year to year. And so you can be reviewing these now and thinking about what you might want to write in your own personal statement essay when the time comes. We'll talk more about the essay later. But with that, I want to actually log into my personal Common App account. And together we are going to pretend step by step like we are applying to universities, so you can really see what it takes for you to do so. I'll be happy to answer questions at the end, but also if it makes sense throughout the presentation to type your questions in the chat box, I'm okay with that as well. In order to create a Common Application account, it's actually free. So we can just come to the home page and create a student account. You can do that when you are younger, before it's even your time to apply to universities. However, when the application cycle opens again every August 1st for students to be applying to schools, the website is going to reset. So you'll still have your account, but some of it might change around as we prepare for the next application cycle. So just keep that in mind, but any day you can create your account for free. So here we can see my own personal practice account, as I'm not a student, with my Common Application ID number and my email address listed at the top of my account. Keep in mind, when you submit your university application, this is my first pro tip for you, university representatives, the admissions committee, they will see your email address at the top of your application. So because of that, it's very important that your email address is something that is professional, not like, I don't know, Princess 101. We want it to be something a little bit more mature and professional, as you are going to be applying to universities, and that's almost like the first thing they see on that application. So for example, my email address is just my initial and my last name. So as I come down into my own account, you can see these tabs that we are going to work through together. Before we actually apply to universities, we need to start off by deciding where we want to apply to. So let's begin with the College Search tab. This shows me that 1,012 universities use the Common Application website. Far too many schools for us to be applying to. So I'm going to filter this. There are a number of different filters you can use, for example, by country. So if I select Jamaica, you'll see that only one university in Jamaica uses the Common Application. So for today's example, let's just look at universities in the United States, because out of those 1,012, what is that? 955 are US-based universities. We can filter a number of other ways as well, including no fee for international applicants. That's a good one. But I'm just going to use the filter for state, and I'm going to go ahead and select, how about California, universities in Florida, and universities in my home state of Pennsylvania, where I am currently visiting. Let's see where that gets us. 160. That still is a lot of universities. But what I love, of the many things I love about this website, is that I can use this as my starting point to do my university research. For example, maybe you are interested in Arcadia University. When I click on Arcadia, I can see the contact details of their admissions representatives for people like myself. That information is listed there for you to use. We want to hear from you. We want to know your interests and your questions. So never hesitate to reach out. We can see links to the website, social media, when the application is due, the cost, what's required in that application. Because those requirements, those deadlines are going to vary from university to university. And something else I love about this website is that it can really help us to stay organized with those deadlines and with those requirements. In fact, there is actually a Common Application app for your cell phone that you could download in order to keep track of your application status and what you still need to be submitting. So perhaps after further research, we've looked at Arcadia, we've gone to their website, we've seen their academic programs. What are the other factors that are important to consider for universities? Academics, student body? How many students are there? Are there internship opportunities? Where are the alumni today? What have they gone on to do? What are the student activities like? Is there study abroad options? Scholarships, are there scholarships available for international students? Where is it located? Do you think you would like the location? Big city, small town? These are all the things we must consider. So perhaps after further research, you decide you're interested in Arcadia. What we can do next is actually add Arcadia to our list of universities on my personal account and continue with our research. We can go on the whole way down through that list and look at all of the schools, but in the interest of time, I have already narrowed down the number of universities that I'm going to apply to today. And I can see those that I have saved in the dashboard of my personal account. Another great thing about this website is that when I log in and log out, not only is my Common Application progress saved if I have already submitted any responses, but additionally, the universities that I'm interested in, this list of schools is saved as well. And so you could be starting your research now and really adding this list. So let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 schools saved so far. But I think I only plan to apply to 4 through the Common Application because I'm going to apply to schools in other countries as well. So after further research, I have narrowed it down to these 4 schools. On this dashboard page, I can see my progress of each application and when that will be due. And at this point, it's time to begin working on our application. Again, if you have questions, feel free to submit them along the way. But next, let's move into the Common App tab. And this is where I anticipate you might have some questions. Everything that you can see listed here under Common App, these are the sections of my university application that will be sent to each of the 4 schools that I have decided to apply to. One common application for all 4 schools. Makes my life a lot easier, saves me some time. Also, I want you to notice on every page we're going to go through on the right side of my screen, there's a need help bar so that I can go and refer there if I get stuck at any point, and maybe I'll be able to have my question answered in that section. A lot of the questions that the Common Application will ask me are pretty straightforward, pretty easy for you to know what your response would be. So we can move through this quickly. However, again, if you have questions, let me know, but let's go ahead and begin with the profile section. So here I'm going to list out my legal first or given name. Now, if you were paying attention, you know that I introduced myself as Marcy. However, my legal name is actually Martha. So I'm going to make sure that I am listing my legal name in this space so that when I submit my standardized test scores, high school transcripts, all of those documents are going to match with my legal given name, Martha Her. So I have added Martha there, even though the only person who calls me Martha is my grandmother, I still need to put it there. However, I do have a name that I would prefer universities call me, and that is Marcy. So anytime they reach out to me by email or phone, when I receive my acceptance letters, hopefully they're calling me Marcy. Middle name Joyce and last name Her. If your name is longer than 3, like mine, Martha Joyce Her, you can break it down within these boxes in whatever way makes the most sense for you. So maybe I just do that, Martha Joyce Her, and move on. This question, have you ever used any other names? Well, yes, Marcy. But Marcy is just my nickname. It's not my legal name. I have not changed my last name due to an adoption or a marriage, for example. So I'm just going to say no and add my birthday, which is coming up quite soon. The next couple of sections are just more straightforward, basic personal details. My home address. Most likely my universities I'm applying to are not going to contact me via mail, but I still need to include my address and, more importantly, a phone number where they can contact me in case there are any parts of my application that are missing. The demographics section is going to be the first section where not all of the questions are required. So you'll see gender. I added female, even though I could just leave that blank if I don't want to answer that. Legal sex, female, that question is required. I can see the small red asterisk star, so I know I must answer that. And then I have left the next couple blank because they're not required. If a question is not required, it's not going to help or hurt my application if I choose not to answer it. It simply is information that universities do not need in order to make an admissions decision. So if you cannot answer a question or you just choose not to answer an optional question, don't stress about it. We'll just leave those blank and move on. However, before we move on, I do also want to point out this question. U.S. Armed Forces status. Are you involved in the U.S. military? As an international student, that might seem like a kind of odd question to be asked, but keep in mind that since, 955 out of the 1,012 universities that use this website are US based. Therefore, most of the students who use the Common Application website are also US citizens. And so perhaps they have been involved in the US military. However, I have not been, so I will leave that question blank. Also keep in mind that year after year, thousands of international students use the Common Application. We love to see applications coming to NYU from all over the world. And so don't let this intimidate you that the Common Application is US centric in parts of it. Languages. What is the number of languages that you are proficient in? Now, throughout your Common Application, it's very important that we are thorough. We are providing as much information as possible, but also that we are honest. So for example, how many languages am I proficient in? Only one, unfortunately. Even though I've been living in Mexico for 2 years, I am definitely not proficient in Spanish yet. So I can't declare on my Common Application that I am. That's not true. Something I love about the Common App though, is as I work through it, it's going to auto-populate my responses and allow me to add up to 5 languages that maybe I know. If you know 5 languages, I'm very jealous. But I just love that as we go through, it adjusts based on our answers. However, again, for me, it's just going to be 1. Geography and nationality. I've already messed around with this section. I said I am from Trinidad, born in Port of Spain, never lived in the United States. I'm a citizen of a non-US country, Trinidad, for example. You'll notice that only those second 2 questions are, or 4th and 5th questions are required. I chose to answer all of them anyway. But the next question, I know can be stressful as an international student. Let's go ahead and take a look. Do you currently hold a valid US visa? I said no. The next 2 questions are optional. We could leave them blank. However, if you want to answer it, you can. Do you intend to apply for a new or different US visa? Yes. Visa type. There's a lot of them. Now, I assume that it would be an F1 student visa, right? But if you're not familiar with visas, we can just say, I don't know which visa I will hold, or we can leave it blank again. Right now, we are not applying for a US visa. We are applying for university admissions. These questions are not meant to stress you out. If you are admitted to a university, they have offices, they have international student offices with support and staff support in place, to help you through the visa process. They've done it with many, many students before you, and they can help you with it as well. And so for now, let's just focus on applying to the university and not stress about the visa process quite yet. The Common Application fee waiver. So some universities are going to be free for international students to apply to. Others maybe cost $30, $40, $50. It's actually $80 to apply to NYU. So it can really add up if you're applying to more than one university. If those fees just to apply would present a financial burden for your family, you can, in this section, request an application fee waiver so that you will not be charged for your university application. In order to do so, you need to meet one or more of the criteria of the examples listed here. Most likely, we will go with the last one as an international student because the others are US government programs. So we will say that you can provide a supporting statement from a school official who can say, yes, this student does need a fee waiver. What will happen is that later, when my teacher is submitting my high school transcript to show my grades and my letter of recommendation on my behalf, they also will verify that, yes, I do need an application fee waiver. And then I will just add my full formal name as my fee waiver signature. The last question is optional and is US based, so I'm just going to ignore it. Many US universities look at applications holistically. We want to know as much about you as possible. We want to see good grades, but also that you're involved in sports or music or art or your community. We want to have good essays where we can get to know you more. We care about your family. We want to know your background. And so we'll ask that here. We only need to know the marital status of your parents, if you live with them, whatever your situation may be. You can add step parents. And then we just need to know the name of your parents and their education level. Most of these other questions are not required, and so you can leave them blank. If you want the common application to keep your parents updated about your application status, you could add their contact details, but you do not need to do so. So for my father, he attended some university. At one university, I had to add the name of that school, but he did not earn a degree. I answered the same questions for my mother, and for my siblings, I just needed to add their names and ages. You just leave an optional. All right, education section. If you haven't been paying attention, now is the time to pay attention because this is the section where I receive the most questions. We're going to start off by adding our current or most recent secondary or high school. So I've already added one in Trinidad, but let's change it and I will show you how. So let's say, for example, you attend the Liceo Franco School in Mexico City, which is just down the street from where I live. Here it is. I was able to find that school. If, for example, you can't find your school on this list, then you can just click on this and you will need to add the school name on your own. So moving on, when did you begin at that school? When was your date of entry? August 2020. Is this a boarding school? Do you live there? No. Will you graduate from this school? Yes, in June of next year. The next question is asking, was there any change in your progression during high school? Meaning, was your high school timeline normal? You just went straight through, or for some reason you graduated early or late or took time off, took a gap year between finishing high school and applying to university. If not, then you can ignore this section and move on. However, if you did, that's fine. We just want to understand why. We need to see the full picture and know more about your story. So for example, due to COVID-19, I decided to take a gap year, I volunteered, I had a job, whatever your story is. If you attended more than one school, then we need to know the name of that school. So again, I had to add that school, when you attended there, and why you attended more than one school. So for example, in my second year of high school, my family moved to a new city where I completed high school. Or perhaps based on top academics, I was selected on scholarship to attend a prestigious school for my last 2 years. Everyone has a different story. We just want to really see the full picture of your high school journey. Some students have the opportunity to take university level courses while they are still in high school. If that applies to you, all that we need to know is the name of that school and when you were there. I recommend that you work on the grades section with a teacher from your school so that you have accurate information to report. You can ask them the following questions. What is the approximate size of my graduating class? This does not mean how many students are in your history class, how many students are in your whole school, but rather when I graduate in June of 2023, how many students will finish school with me? So let's say, for example, my teacher told me 50 students. Next, class rank reporting. Class rank and the next question, GPA, are very US centric. It's quite common in US schools, and I know oftentimes for international schools it can be uncommon. That does not disadvantage you at all if you do not have this in your school, because the admissions committees at the universities that you apply to are going to assess and review your academics based on the academics at your school. They can't compare you to a system that's completely different. They just want to see that within your system, within your school, you have excelled, right? However, some schools do have class rank. Maybe you are not familiar with what that is. Class rank meaning, okay, so out of those 50 students, where do you rank based on your grades, based on your academics? Maybe it's an exact ranking. So my teacher tells me, out of the 50 students as of right now, based on your academics, you are number 34. Or maybe it's the top 10% or the top 20%. Each school does it differently and some schools don't have it. So we'll just leave that blank for today. Next, GPA. Do you know what that is? Does your school have that? Have you seen it in a movie? Again, I need you to become common application experts today. So let's just make sure we're all on the same page. GPA is grade point average, meaning of all of my high school grades, a perfect score or even like a 90 to 95% in a class is worth, let's say, 4.0 is an A. Or maybe a 10.0 is an A. And then a B is a 3, a C is a 2, you get it. So let's say that at my school, the grade point average system is out of a 4. So my teacher told me that so far, based on all of my grades, I have a 3.4 out of 4. So I'm a mostly B student. And maybe it's weighted at your school, meaning that the more difficult classes are worth a 5 out of 4. So potentially, if I do really well, I could have even higher than that 4.0, I could have a 4.5. But again, not all schools have this. So if you end up leaving it blank, then that is totally okay. But it's really important to have your teachers help you with this section just so that you're answering those questions accurately. Of course, we will see it on the documentation that they submit to the university on your behalf anyway. Another thing that many teachers are going to need to submit for you to universities is what we call your transcript, your high school grades. And even though we have them submit that, we still need you to report the courses that you are taking most recently in this section. The reason for that is because sometimes there's a delay for us to receive your transcript. And so we just want to have on record the courses that you are taking right here. Something I have not mentioned yet that's really important is that if English is your second language, it is crucial, it's necessary that all of the information you are reporting in your common application is in English. All of my course titles need to be translated to English. My letter of recommendation, my activity list for things I'm involved in, it all needs to be in English. We must assume that the reader of your application does not speak Spanish, does not speak whatever your native language is, and they are only an English speaker. And so just make sure that you're keeping that in mind. So I've added my current courses here. Using this list, I was able to organize them. So I said calculus, calculus 2, being as specific as I can. And the course level, when I looked through this list of course levels, none of them really made sense for my school. So I ended up saying NA, not applicable. And I will move on. The next section is the honors section. I'm going to ask you to think quickly. This section is for any academic honors that students were awarded in school. I want to know, what are some examples of that at your school? Academic honors or awards that you can win. Does your school have any of those? If so, tell me in the chat box. And then I will share with you some examples that I already have saved. You're able to, in this section, add up to 5 awards. But at each school, it's going to look different as to what's available. Some schools have so many academic honor students can win, others not. Any examples? I'll share some with you. Also, please note in the instructions in the questions, it asks us beginning with the 9th grade or international equivalent. So for example, all of the information we are submitting in this common application is from high school. That's going to look different country to country. In the United States, it's grades 9 through 12, it's 4 years, standard. However, in other countries, sometimes it's 3 years, sometimes it's 5 years. What we want to know is the international equivalent. So if in your country, high school is only 3 years, then that is what we would want to know. We want the information from 3 years and nothing from earlier than that. So here's some examples of academic honors that you could win. The Dean's List, what grade did you win that? And is it a school award or even higher? The Honor Roll, Valedictorian for top academics, maybe the class prefect or a math Olympiad. Just a couple examples. The next section, community-based organizations. Indicate the number of community programs or organizations that have provided you with free assistance in your application process. All of you that are here today, hopefully your answer for this is Education USA. Your Education USA advisor has helped you to apply to universities for free. That's an amazing resource. And finally, future plans. Later in my common application, I'm going to show you how to decide on what major, what academic area, what career you want from each university of the 4 that we are applying to. But in this section, future plans, we're just saying, in general, as of now, I think that my future career is going to be an engineer. Perhaps what you're interested in, you can't find in this list, so we could say other, or maybe you don't know yet, so you could say undecided. However, perhaps I want to be a DJ and it's not in the list, so I will add that on my own. And then finally, what is the highest degree that you intend to earn? So after your 4-year bachelor's degree, are you going to further your studies even more for a master's degree, business, law, medicine? Maybe you don't know. For now, I'm just going to focus on my bachelor's degree. And that is the end of the education section. Let's move on. Testing. Many universities are now test optional. Some still require standardized test scores. It is so important that you know the differences in the expectations and requirements from each university that you are applying to. NYU, for example, does not require standardized test scores anymore. And so you could apply without them unless you're a CAPE student. If you are a CAPE student, we still would want to see your CAPE scores because we know that you will need them in order to graduate. However, you don't need the SAT or the ACT for a number of different universities anymore. In this section, we can self-report our scores. What that means is that I'm going to add my scores here. However, you still need to make sure that official scores are sent from CAPE, from SAT, from Duolingo, or whatever exam you are taking. We need official scores from those organizations as well. But I'm going to add my scores here in the spaces provided. Okay. Perhaps you are applying to a university before you have received your official CAPE scores. We understand that. We read a lot of applications from students who take the CAPE, and so we understand that maybe you are sending us your predicted scores. And then if later we accept you to our university, we will expect to receive your actual scores before you begin your classes. The activity section is my favorite because this is where you can really start to personalize your application by telling us up to 10 different things that you are involved in from these categories: art, sports, music, theater, a family business, volunteering, church, a religious organization, whatever that looks like for you. Keep in mind, there is not a right answer in this section. There's not a perfect thing that you are involved in. The answer here is, what are you passionate about? That is really what we want to see. And so go ahead and go through and add your involvement in this section, beginning with the activity that is the most important to you and the most impressive also. What are you the most passionate about? That's what we should see first. Another tip in this section is that you only have up to 150 characters to describe it. And in this very limited space, you should do your best to show us how you made a difference in that organization. So I said I increased the sales by 10%. I then added the grade levels that I was involved. So for me, it was all through high school, about 7 hours a week, sometimes 20 hours, sometimes 2 hours. So I just kind of averaged it. I said about 7 hours, but most of the year, and no, I will not do this in college. In every section of your common application, please make sure that you are previewing it. You're making sure it's all in English, that there are not any typos, and that it looks perfect. So I'm looking down through this. I was in the painting club. I played basketball and soccer. It looks nice if you add similar activities in the same category close together to keep it more organized. And also, if you're involved in something for a number of years and you have different positions, like first I was a member, then I was the treasurer, then I was the president, You could just do it like I did with my math club and add that as one activity. Our last section is going to be the writing section, the common application essay. This essay is so important. Start it now, start thinking about it early. These instructions are telling me that only 2 of the schools I'm applying to require the essay, the other 2 do not. However, I will send it to all 4 of them anyway, since I already have to write it. This essay cannot be longer than 650 words, and it needs to answer 1 out of these 7 questions. About an accomplishment, a difficult time you've gone through, an obstacle, your identity, a topic that's so fascinating to you. This is another section of your common application where there's no right answer. This is your space to really introduce yourself to the admissions committee. What makes you unique? Really put a lot of time into perfecting this essay. It should be interesting. It should tell your story. And it should tell us something new about you. As we read about your activities, your extracurricular involvement, your letter of recommendation, your grades, we're learning more and more. But what is that one thing that you are just so proud of that we have to know? Tell us that here in this essay. And then there are just 2 more questions in the writing section. One is about COVID-19. Of course, we all have been incredibly impacted by the pandemic in a number of different ways. If you feel that there is an impact the pandemic has had on your life that we should understand and know about, then this next question gives you the space to share that. We understand that for 2+ years, all school activities were canceled. We understand that you're going to have limited involvement because of that. You're not alone in that. But if there's anything unique about your experience that you really think that we should know, feel free to add that in this space so that we really understand your story more. And then the last question, do you wish to provide details of circumstances or qualifications not reflected in the application? Meaning, okay, now we're to the end of your Common App. Is there anything else that we don't already know that we really have to know and understand about you in order to make a fair judgment of your application? This could be a number of different things. Maybe in my 2nd year of high school, I spent 2 months in the hospital and I struggled to maintain my grades. Or I took the most difficult classes my school offered, but I still didn't feel challenged. Or something about my education system or my school that's very unique is this. Don't abuse this section though. This is not a space to add an extra personal statement, an extra essay, or an extension of the activity section. But if there's something else that we really should know, don't hesitate to add that here. And that, my friends, is the end of the Common App. Maybe some schools you're applying to will ask you to add all of your high school grades here, but the 4 I chose are not requiring that. If you have any questions, now would be an awesome time in our remaining minutes to start typing those in the chat box. As I proceed to the last section, we come to the Mycologist tab in order to do 3 things. Answer questions specific to each university that we are applying to, invite our recommenders, and finally submit. So when we do that for NYU, what we are doing is answering questions like, what campus are you applying to? What do you want to major in? Are you applying early decision or regular decision? You really need to understand those differences. Early decision meaning that this is my dream school, and if they accept me, I will withdraw all of my other applications. Or maybe you want to keep your options open, so you will apply regular decision. It's really up to you. A number of other questions specific to NYU. Maybe the university you're applying to has an extra essay. It's going to depend from school to school. All of these 4 universities will have different questions for me. Then I am going to invite my recommender. This is the teacher who will write a letter of recommendation for me and who will submit my transcript. And something magical happens. When I added the name and email address of my counselor, Mr. Danny Para, the Common Application connected my account with his account. So now I can see everything that he needs to do on my behalf and if he has submitted that or not. And ultimately, I will come to this tab to submit my Common Application. And that, my friends, is the end of the Common App. I hope that you feel much more empowered in completing it when the time comes for you to do so. But at this point, if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those for you.
Thank you, Marcy, for your participation, for accepting our invitation to our regional webinar today. The information that you provided today is wonderful, as Amanda's. So students now have two options. There are more options also about platforms to complete your application. I have a question from the Facebook. And a student is asking, what should I do if my high school is not on the list?
Great question. Thank you for that. So let's go ahead and look back at that section. That's the best way to show you. So for example, when I come to this section, the education section, and I can't find my high school. So let's just add I don't see my high school in this list. What you're going to need to do is add that information on your own. So I'm going to come here and add, this is actually the name of my high school in Pennsylvania. It's in the US, it's a public school, and you'll just have to go through and add that information on your own, and then you'll be set.
Great, thank you. I have another question here about any age restrictions. Do you have any age restrictions for students?
That's going to depend on the university, but for NYU, students need to be 17 at the time of classes starting. So for example, the application on the Common App website opens in August of your final year of school. You graduate in May or June, and then classes would begin at university the following August. By that point, students need to be 17 years old.
But what about older students? Is there any issues with older students?
I guess that also depends on the university. For NYU, it's quite uncommon at the Abu Dhabi campus for students to be accepted if they're over 22 or 23, just because we have a small student body and most of our students are going to be 17 or 18. But again, that depends on the school.
Thank you. I think you talk about this, but when a student is asking if you have any specific advice relating extracurricular activities that might make an applicant stand out.
Definitely. So first of all, don't limit yourself. Again, I understand that through the 2 years of our pandemic, your involvement was very limited. And so think outside of the box. Is there something that you have taught yourself? Maybe you've taught yourself an instrument or a language. Maybe you took an online course. Maybe you were volunteering during the pandemic, or you are involved in your church choir, or you volunteer in your religious organizations once a week. Maybe you were not able to be involved in many activities because you are the primary caretaker for your siblings or for your grandparents. That counts too. We want to know what you are putting your time into. So even if you don't have 10 activities to list to fill this section, everyone has something. And so really think about what that could look like for you. My other advice is don't join 10 organizations just in your final year of school to fill this section, because when an admissions committee reads that, to them, it's not because you're passionate and really care a lot about all of that, but rather because you're just trying to make your application look good. What we want to see is that you've been involved in something over time and that you've really made a difference.
Thank you, Marcy. Somebody else is asking about the fees. What is the cost of using this platform and applying to universities?
Sure. So some universities on the Common Application are going to be free for international students to apply. Other universities will cost money. And for those that cost money, it's possible for you to request a fee waiver. Some universities won't be able to afford to pay this for you, but it doesn't hurt to try. And so in order to request a fee waiver, meaning that you can apply to that school for free, you will just select yes and type your full name. That's it. Then later, let me just show you what happens. For NYU, for example, my teacher, Mr. Danny, he needs to go in and for this section for fee waiver, he will need to approve. Yes, Marcy does need a fee waiver. She can't afford to apply to NYU, and then I won't need to pay. There also are other fees though as well. For example, if you take an exam like the Duolingo, or you have to submit the CSS profile form to apply for financial aid, Other application components cost money as well, and so don't hesitate to reach out to universities you're applying to ask them if they can cover those costs for you.
Okay, thank you. And there is another question here about the section on financial aid resources. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with, oops, I'm so sorry, with that section because it's, again, going to look different at each university. And since NYU Abu Dhabi is not based in the US, I don't use this part. But really just do your research is my best advice for that. But I'm not familiar with this section.
Thank you, Marcy. That's okay. And actually, I have another very specific questions that I don't think we are going to have time to answer today because they are not related directly to the application. But I would like to share with you that we are going to have more webinars in September. So I'm going to share my screen, if that's okay with you, Marcy.
Yes, definitely.
Okay,
let's see. Stop my share here.
Okay, I think you can see it now. Okay, so these are the sessions that are coming. We are going to have one in September 7 about types of institutions and how the universities are in the United States. We will talk about community colleges, what is the difference between a college and university. So if you are interested, please join us. Also, we will have a specific session on early action and early decision and regular decision. For those interested in graduate studies, we will have one session on education, a graduate professional roundtable. And at the end of September, we will have a session on how to prepare a strong graduate school application. So these are the sessions that are coming for the next month. I also want to share our advice, our website for Education USA. Here in the chat, I'm going to share how you can register for this. Oh, no, it's not working here. Sorry, I'm going to stop sharing here. Yes, and in the chat, I'm going to share the link so you can register for our sessions coming in September. And my last intervention here, I want to share how you can find your Education USA Advising Center. Many of you have more questions about how you can work on your application, how you can do extracurricular activities, how to find financial aid in your countries. So here in this link, you will find your advising center. I also told you before that I will share my contact information. So here I'm sharing in the chat my email. Yeah, that's right. So you can also send me an email and I will put you in contact. You can ask me questions and I'll be happy to answer any other questions. Also, Jackson is sharing his emails. So yes, please feel free to contact us and we'll be happy to put you in contact with your advising center, your Education USA that is near to you. Thank you again, Marcy, Amanda, and thank you for all the wonderful attendance that we have today for this great session, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you very much.